What's up, music producers? Is it time for you to buy an audio interface? Well, don't do that until you watch this video. We're going to go through some super important questions to ask yourself so you know what the right audio interface is for you. Now, I'm not going to tell you which one you need, but I am going to make some specific comparisons between some of the leading brands to help you have a better idea of which audio interface is best for you. Okay, so the three brands I'm going to be focusing on today are Focusrite, Universal Audio, and Audient. Now, there are so many different brands that you can buy an audio interface from, and this is not to say that those aren't also good options, but these are just three of some of the best that I've used and that I think are coming out with really great features today. But before we get into comparisons of those brands, let's just talk about an audio interface and what you need to know when choosing one to make the best decision for you. The main three factors when choosing which audio interface to get are the number of inputs and outputs you need, the type of instruments or vocals that you will be recording, and your budget, of course. So we're going to focus on beginner-friendly models, so everything's going to be around $300 or less. And of course, if you are looking to spend more, there are plenty of those options, but this video is focused on beginners and just starting out. How many inputs do you need? That's a great question, and that's one of the first things you should ask yourself. Are you a solo artist who just needs a microphone and maybe an instrument to plug in? Then great, you can stick with 2 inputs. If you want to record maybe 2 or 3 people at once and have a guitarist, a bass player, and keyboards, maybe 4 inputs is the way to go. Now this expands up to 8, 16, and even more inputs, but you're not going to need those unless you're building a bigger studio. So just stick with what you really need and you'll be good to go. Now this is called a mic line combo. And what this means is that you can plug either an XLR cable or a TS or TRS 1/4 inch cable into this input. And that means that it can work for both microphones or for guitars, basses, or keyboards. So this is a really great option for a beginner because you're going to have the ability to use it either for mic or line. Preamps. Now these won't be found on every single audio interface, but it's very important for you to look at if you're going to be recording acoustic instruments and or vocals. On Focusrite, they have a function called Air, which is their preamp solution, and it's something that mimics their Focusrite ISA preamps, which have been around for a long time, and something that's a renowned preamp. So they use that same type of structure within these audio interfaces to give you a great quality preamp at a pretty affordable price. Something that you'll see on all audio interfaces is a phantom power, also seen as +48. And what that does is it amplifies the sound of your microphone to be a line level and to be suitable for recording. Now the preamps I mentioned are going to take that level and amplify it even further to give you an even higher quality potentially sound. And that's why there's such a value in preamp. People spend thousands of dollars on external hardware preamps, but in this case, the ones in your audio interface are going to do the trick. For Scarlett 2i2, it runs about $189, and that means you'll have 2 inputs and 2 outputs, which can go to either one of your monitors, and that's usually enough. And you also are going to get 2 mic pre's built in with the interface. For Audient ID4, that runs about $195, and you're only going to get 1 mic pre, but you do also get a dedicated instrument input, which is also a very valuable thing to have. Between these brands, Universal Audio 276 does run the most at around $229, and you do get 2 mic pre's. So for this next category, it's 4 inputs and 4 outputs. Now the cheapest in this one is actually Audient, but it's because they have a different class, the EVO. It's a little different than the ID, which we looked at for 2i, 2out. This is more of their budget-friendly audio interface, a little cheaper made with more plastic and not as rugged. That being said, it's still a great option for the budget. You get 4 mic pre's, 4 inputs, 4 outs. So if you want that more inputs but don't have the money, then this could be a great option. Alright, then you got the Scarlett 4i4, which is just a little bit more at $219, but you have that rugged stability, and that is the same class as the 2i2, just with a few more inputs. You still get 2 mic pre's, 4 inputs, and lots of goodness from Focusrite. Most expensive in this category out of the 3 brands is going to be Universal Audio again with their 476 with the mic pre's, and that's going to be around $315. and you get 2 mic pre's with this, 4 inputs and 4 outputs. Now let's discuss some other features of the different brands and what they have to offer you besides just the interface. Let's talk about some plugins that come with the interfaces and how that might actually sway you to choose one over the other. Think about the type of music you're producing and see which one of these plugins might best support you in your music career. Focusrite first comes with both Ableton Lite and Pro Tools. I really like that they do this because as a beginner producer, maybe you've used neither, and this can give you an option to try them out and see which one you like best, and then you can go on to purchase the full versions of either. They also have something called their Hitmakers expansion pack, which gets you plugins from Antares, Lander, Softtube, and XLN Audio, and some others as well. Universal Audio, I've noticed, is doing a great job actually advertising how much they include with their audio interfaces. That being said, what do they actually include? So we have Ableton Live, we have a Melodyne Essentials, there's a great reverb plugin, as well as a virtual bassist and a virtual drummer. Now the way I feel like they're framing this makes it feel like it's specifically for music producers. Now for Audient, I wasn't clear on how many of these actual plugins you can claim, but they did have a really long list of the different plugins that you could use, and it's from Spitfire Audio. They use Cubase as the DAW that comes with their audio interface. There's also Arcade by Output, some Waldorf synthesizers, VSTs, and a couple other options as well. There were a couple other interfaces I wanted to mention as well, being from Behringer and SSL. You can see the prices right there, but the reason I wanted to mention them, Behringer to me is actually one of the best budget audio interfaces. It was the first one I started with was the 404, and it lasted me for a long time until I was ready to start recording larger bands and groups, and then I decided to upgrade my unit. That being said, you know, it's really good if all you need is the interface, you want something cheap, and all you need are 2 inputs, go for the Behringer. That'll get you the cheapest one, and you could start literally making music with $100. It's pretty amazing. And the other one I included was SSL because SSL has been around for a long time in the music world, and their boards, their mixing boards, are in some of the most expensive studios around the world. They've now made that into a beginner unit where you can do just 2 inputs and you can start working there. So that's another really cool option. Here are some of my thoughts before you go off and purchase an interface. One of the things I really want to express is that all of these interfaces have the capability of allowing you to make music. In today's age, the technology really is so advanced that you can make music with any of these. Now that being said, it's really nice to have good gear so that you can get good quality recordings, but the creativity and your song and your originality is what's going to be the spark that makes your music succeed. So any of these interfaces that I've mentioned, you can get a great quality recording out of, and you can put that on a record and you can make your own music with that. So just don't forget that as you see all the bells and whistles, different things offered, and all these $1,000 to $3,000 interfaces. Stick with what you need, like we talked about with the budget, the amount of inputs you need, and what you're going to be recording, and then just stick with that for now. And as you expand your music career, allow your equipment to grow with you and don't do it the other way around. This is going to be a surefire way to give you success throughout your whole career. Back to the interfaces that we discussed. I really like what the Volt is doing, but don't get too overwhelmed by the compressor setting on there, because even though it is really nice to have a compressor in the hardware, the only time you're really going to need that is for maybe streaming or something where you want the sound to come as in part of the recording chain. If you're going to be recording and mixing after, you can always add compression within the DAW, so don't think that's something you need. But on the other hand, the mic pre's are something that I think are very important. So if budget isn't a concern, go ahead and go for the compressors. The 76s on those UA Volts are really cool, and they're based off the 1176, which is a legendary compressor, been around for years, something that's worth having. But again, you don't need it. You can add these things into your DAW later. So what's your focus? Having a low budget but still having great quality sounds? Then any of these are great options. Just go with the inputs you need and you're going to be awesome with it. I really hope this video helped clarify a few things on how to choose an audio interface. I know that I didn't say this is the one you need to buy, but I don't think I should have that decision. I hope that I gave you enough options to help you make that decision without being overwhelming, and I also hope that now you have the tools to decide. Please let me know what you thought in the comments, and if you have a favorite interface for a budget or for your studio in general, I would love to hear about it. I appreciate you guys so much. Please like and subscribe if you want to support my content and my channel. But besides that, keep being creative and keep making music. Thanks.